Hmm. And
So
we are live.
Really good time. Nope, sorry, go ahead.
And we are live, everybody. Welcome to the Deconversion Stories. Today I am talking with Wendy McLelland, who actually might as well be a neighbor of mine because she's from my neck of the woods. And she was a Christian for 50 years and came out of the faith. And we're going to hear the story of how that happened. And Wendy has been helping her dad all day, so she actually was on her way home and decided to pull over on the side of the road because she didn't quite make it there. So we got about an hour with her. Hopefully her battery on her computer will last for that long. She may or may not join the after party. It just depends on how much power is left. So anyways, Wendy, what I usually do here is I talk to people about their journeys away from their belief systems. And I'd like to hear yours. So take us back to when you sort of first started having these doubts and what led you out of the belief to become the activist-ish sort of person that you are now.
Okay. I would say probably about 5 years ago, I started to become extremely disillusioned with Christians,
Okay.
Especially the right-wing Christians, evangelicals in the United States. And I just saw such hateful, cruel behavior and words. And I just thought, I don't even really want to use that label anymore, being a Christian, because of what these people are doing.
Right.
And so I thought, I talked to a lot of my Christian friends, and they said, well, just focus on Christ's example and live by that and don't worry about the rest. And I did that for a while, and that kind of appeased me for a while. And then a friend of mine down in the States had a baby that was born at 24 weeks. And this little thing she didn't even weigh a pound. And so the mom of this baby, who was in a NICU in the States, asked for all of us who knew her to pray for the baby. And I had put this baby on prayer chains, and I was known in my church as a prayer warrior. So, this was really comfortable territory for me.
Sure.
And so I prayed every day for this baby. And one morning I woke up and I went, oh my gosh, I forgot to pray for the baby last night. And then that got me thinking, well, what if that was the one prayer that would have made a difference? Or does one prayer make a difference? And I started investigating the validity and the proof that prayer actually works. And there's actually not been a lot of studies done on it, but the one major study I was able to find showed that it clearly had no effect. And then I kind of delved into it more deeply. Sorry, go ahead.
Are you referring to the one that they did where they had the 3 groups, where they had the people that knew they were being prayed for, the people that didn't know, and the people that were told they might be?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Right. And the ones that were told they were being prayed for, they apparently fared worse.
They did worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did worse. And I started to think about moms who had a baby with these same health issues that were born in Haiti, for example. Mm-hmm. That baby at 24 weeks would have immediately died because there's no NICU in Haiti. And no matter how much those parents prayed, that baby was not going to live.
Right.
And I started to think, okay, really, how effective is this prayer? And is there really anybody on the other side? And I grew up in the church. I grew up as an Anglican, which I always kind of call watered down Catholic. And then when I was going through a divorce in my 30s, I really was seeking God again. I was seeking that comfort and that foundation again. So I started going to a Mennonite church, sort of a mega church with like 4,000 people going every weekend.
Wow.
So really big church, super people. I felt so supported there. I ran the single parents group out of my home for 2 years. I went every Monday night to the prayer groups, and we would get prayer requests from people, and we would sit in a circle and we would pray for these people. So I was quite involved, and I got counseling through the church. My kids liked it there. So I really felt at home. But when this whole questioning of prayer came up, it really shook my faith, let's put it that way. And I thought I was still seeking to get closer to God. I was disillusioned with Christians, but I wanted to be closer to God. So I thought, I'm going to read this Bible. I'm going to understand what God is really trying to tell me. And I'm going to not just read it, but I'm going to question it. I'm going to research it to prove that this is really the Word of God and that this has got a message for my life and everybody's life. So I started at Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1, and started reading. And I mean, it took me 2 years to do this because I was really determined to find the real information. And so I would read maybe, 5 or 6 verses, and then I would research online the history of, could this actually have happened scientifically? Does this place really exist in real life? Does this fit with the timeline we know of history, of science? Does archaeology support this? And I mean, I didn't get far into
questions.
Yeah. Cool questions. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said you had a couple questions. Sorry.
No. I said those are reasonable questions.
Yeah, I think so. But I hardly got, past the first chapter of Genesis, and I was like, oh my gosh, this just isn't reality. And I had to kind of stop for a little while because I had 2 choices. I could keep living in this really nice, comfortable bubble of my disillusionment, of my my belief system that wasn't really grounded in reality, or I could really find the truth. And
so,
yeah.
What about you're referring to the Genesis chapters that you read? What about that sort of led you to think that it wasn't reality?
The biggest thing I would say is the Exodus story. Finding out that the Egyptians never really had Jewish slaves. The fact that if that story were true, and I've heard there's different estimates on the number of people that apparently walked through the desert for 40 years. I've heard anywhere from 500,000 to 3 million. There's not one shred of archaeological evidence. There's no bone fragments. There's no pottery fragments. There's no, no markings on wall. There's nothing to prove that any of these people were in the desert.
I follow the 2 Israelis that were doing the research for the Jerusalem University on that entire thing, and they pretty much said what you said. They came up with nothing. And somebody apparently tried to pass off a wheel that they found in the Red Sea as one of the wheels from the Roman.
Oh yes.
Or sorry, from the Egyptian chariots, and it turned out it was no more than like a couple hundred years old or something like that. So
exactly. And that was Moses parting the Red Sea. Yeah,
that's right.
So and I also learned that the distance that they were supposedly have walked, it would take you less than 2 weeks to walk that. Well, what the hell were these people doing in the desert for 40 frickin' years? Like, were they just going in circles?
Exactly. And they say God is not the author of confusion either, right? So why would he confuse them and have them circle around?
Exactly. So that was like the first big thing, because as a kid, when I went to Bible summer camp, the Exodus story is one that they always tell children, in a way to show you how you trust in God, even if the way isn't clear. Things take a long time. It's in God's timing. It all works out in the end the way that God has planned it. So this was a story from my childhood that was really important to me.
Sure.
And when I realized, oh my God, this isn't true, it was kind of shocking.
Yeah, it's an eye-opener. I mean, I was raised in the Jewish faith, and the Exodus story was big for the Jewish faith, or for the Jewish people. We did it every year at Passover. We had the Seders, and we go through the story, and you know what, we still do, because a lot of my family are still believers. But my sister always gives me crap because I roll my eyes every time it's my turn to read part of the story. So, but that's okay. I'm there for the food.
Yeah, exactly. It's always about the food. So I continued on through the whole Bible, and I've posted the picture of my Bible online many times with all the Post-it notes and the scribbles in the margins and things like that. And there's thousands of Post-it notes in there and references. And like I said, it took 2 years to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I didn't even have to get to the end of the book to say, okay, I'm an atheist. And one of the big questions people who are Christians ask me, who I still associate with and people I really admire. One of my mentors is a gentleman who's a very devout Christian, and it was hard for me to tell him that I had become an atheist. It was really hard, and I told him, and he's a very gracious man. I just love him, and he said to me, "Well, what if you're wrong?" And I said, "You know
Pascal's
what?
wager.
Yeah." And I said, if I get to heaven, if I find out that there is a God with a completely clear conscience, I can say to that God, I sought you more deeply and more committedly, I guess, than any other Christian I know. I don't know any Christians who did what I did. I researched it. I searched for you. I begged for you to show me your existence. And I don't feel any guilt whatsoever if God is there at the pearly gates at the end of this whole thing. I'm not, I don't feel I have any worries at all.
Right. You could just say, listen, you should have done better. It should have been more clear that you were around, is what I would say.
And that's how, now as a Christian, as an atheist, I watch what Christians post and I go, oh my gosh, I totally get where your head's at because I was there. But geez, that sounds ridiculous. And I can be kind of sharp-tongued or with words against Christians now because I've been in their shoes, but I don't want to dissuade them from seeking the truth by being so not nasty, but so abrupt,
right?
That they shut down and they don't want to have a conversation, right?
Yeah, that could be tough.
Yeah, it is. What's interesting is as a Christian, we're taught that we're supposed to go out and bring more converts to Jesus, right? Well, I was never really comfortable with that, and I never did that. That never happened for me. I never brought anybody to Jesus, but I have brought 2 people to atheism, so I feel like I'm on the right side of history. So people that were Christians, they were questioning, and I would refer them to watch, Christopher Hitchens or Dawkins or Atheist Experience or whatever, and then have conversations with me. And, 2 people have now said, yeah, you know what? I'm an atheist. I just can't see that there's anything there. So that's kind of my journey, I guess.
That's great. That's great. Well, now, did you have any problems with like family or friends or anything like that? Has anyone sort of cast you aside or anything like that? Like, do they not talk to you anymore? Like anything like that? Has that happened? Or
you know what? I've been really lucky, but here's the thing. I live in a part of the province of British Columbia that's considered the Bible Belt.
Right.
The community that I live in has 80 worship facilities in it. Churches, synagogues, temples, whatever.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can choose. It's a real mix. You can choose whatever you want. So on Twitter, I am 100% open and honest about who I am. On Facebook, unless people dig, they're not going to realize that I'm an atheist because I still do business with people in that community, and I have lost business because of it.
That's
when
too
people
bad.
find out. Family-wise, I've been lucky. My family ranges from siblings that think maybe there's something there, some that are atheists, and one who is quite devout. And they've, I can't say that I felt any negativity. And in fact, last summer, 3 of my sisters and I were sitting down, and 2 of them are still quite religious. And we were just, and one of my sister's husbands was there as well, and he's very religious. And we were just talking, and I was able to answer their questions in such a way that I could tell the wheels were turning in the brain of, oh. And my sister said to me, you really know the Bible, don't you? And I said, well, if I'm going to give up on this book, I better know what I'm giving up on.
Yes.
So
right.
I've been really lucky. And the interesting thing for me is my dad, who's 88 now, he was a Christian all his life as well. And in fact, at one point thought of becoming a priest in the Anglican Church.
Right.
He and I and my family watched my mom's very horrible end of life with Alzheimer's. And during that time, my dad really started to question his faith. Like, why would a loving God torture a woman who had given her whole life to her family, who was an amazing person, and torture someone like that? Like, why would God allow that? And so he and I just started having more and more conversations. And I would say now that he is definitely, he's probably an agnostic atheist now.
Okay.
So I think for somebody of his age to shift their beliefs that dramatically, that's a pretty big deal.
Yes. Yeah. But of course, the ordeal with your mom is probably what sparked that, as you figure.
Yeah.
Because that's a really hard thing to deal with, and like you said, a question like how could an all-loving God allow something like this? The whole thing about suffering just blows me away, that is supposedly a loving God would even allow suffering of any kind. So
yeah, and I've had a lot of health issues in my life, and I don't like using that word suffering, but I have dealt with, 3 times I've been told you have 24 hours to live. I live with constant chronic pain, and I have had people say to me, "Oh, God is refining you," and the old analogy of out of the compressed carbon becomes a diamond, and think of how he rewarded Job after all the horrible things Job went through. And I'm sorry, but that just I have children of my own. I cannot force. There's no circumstance under which I would think punishing them or making them feel pain or suffer is helping them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see how that would help anyways.
I can't. No, not at all. Not at all.
I mean, we can learn lessons without suffering. That's just a non.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's why I don't know why it has to happen.
And my attitude, when you are encountering a difficult situation, whether as a Christian or as an atheist, my attitude has always been, what can I learn from this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be one of those bitter people that are angry all the time, or why me? It's okay. What am I supposed to learn here? And what do I need to adjust in my life to make the situation better? But I certainly would have preferred not to go through the suffering, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody wants to voluntarily go through suffering. That seems kind of ridiculous to me. But yeah, in religious beliefs of all kinds, not just the Abrahamic, there's always this modicum of you have to suffer in order to learn, and I don't get that. I didn't have to suffer to learn many things in my life. Maybe give up a little time, but that's about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, it's rush hour now, I guess. Eh?
Yeah, can you hear it? Do you want me to close the windows? I'll probably start melting here because it's so warm out.
Well, no, you can leave them open because it hasn't really been that interfering, so it's okay. Every once in a while, I
try to park on a fairly quiet street.
That's all right. Yeah, every once in a while, something going by isn't going to be too interrupting or whatever. Okay. So, what is it like now that you are an atheist? Like, do you run into people from your church all the time, and do they ask you why you haven't been around or anything like that? Or
well, here's an interesting story. I rent the place I live in. I rent, and my landlord is a very devout Christian. And I rent the upper floor of a house, and when the laundry is downstairs. So when I go down there, the house is, there's lots of crosses and biblical sayings on the walls and things like that. And I've done business with this woman in the past and everything. As far as I know, I don't think she knows I'm an atheist yet. But she's always leaving magazines out for me, like Joyce Meyer magazines.
Oh,
and, yeah, and the little, the little
Chick tracts.
One, yeah. And
those are awesome.
so yeah. So she hasn't never come right out and said anything. But I don't think that she knows. I've run into some people, yeah, and they're like shocked. And it's interesting. Someone who does follow me on Twitter, who I've known for decades, who also went to my church and stuff. I posted something. This was a few months ago. I posted. Oh, I know what it was. It was kind of on the anniversary of my coming out as an atheist, and I was kind of said, I just want to thank the atheist community on Twitter who's welcomed me and helped me learn, and just really been a great place to find people like mine. And she tweeted back to me, "How very sad."
Really?
And I went back and I said, "Why?" And she didn't respond.
Wow. That kind of stuff always kind of makes me just scratch my head like, hey man, we now have different views. That doesn't mean we can't still interact. We can't have conversations. Just don't bring up the stuff that we have different views on. And it should be that simple. But some people, it's almost like they're offended, like,
what I think it is I think when they see someone like me who they know how deeply my faith was the foundation of my life, I think it scares them, because if I can be turned, anybody can.
Yeah, that's
and I think that
true.
Scares people.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Because I know for me, like, my faith got me through some horrible times, and so when people think, oh, I have to go through life without that support, how will I do that? That's terrifying.
It can be, for sure.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat is a follower of you on Twitter, and they said some very nice things about you.
Oh.
I follow Wendy on Twitter, and I think she's so intelligent, and I love her views on things. And that's Sassy Atheist is the one who said that. So.
Oh, thank you, Sassy Atheist. I appreciate that.
And she's actually starting up her own channel soon as well. A very similar style to what I'm doing. But I think she'll be talking with other Christians or telling stories about people that she knows that also deconvert, something along those lines. So more voices out there, I think the better. And that's why I do this, so that people can hear these stories, because it could help them,
Absolutely. I also, my deconversion happened online too, because like I say, I would watch Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris, and I think I watched every episode of the Atheist Experience. And I was just like, those people changed my life,
They're great people.
Yeah.
I've met them.
So the more people, I know you have. I know you had a great time. It looked like.
Oh yeah, partying at Matt Dillahunty's place was pretty cool. Got to tell you.
I bet. And I think the more of us out there, actually, it's interesting. I just ordered a camera today because I want to start adding more videos. Because every day I tell you on Twitter, I go, shoot, I need to make a video about that. So I just ordered a new camera. So I'll have it in a couple of days, and I've got a ton of lists of videos I want to make. So I'm going to start being a lot more prolific in my sharing of the atheist wisdom.
Well, I think that's fantastic, and I fully encourage you. Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do.
Okay, yes. I didn't realize that you did. So I will actually add that into the description box below once we're done with this. I do have your Twitter handle down there, so if you want to follow Wendy on Twitter, the link is in the description, and soon will be your YouTube channel as well. So
I'll put my YouTube channel in the chat box here.
Oh, can you actually? I don't know if I can operate mine. Apparently, my app didn't load properly. Apparently.
Okay. Well, it's youtube.com/free speech matters.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Easy peasy.
It should be. I hope.
Oh, it will be. Well, I'll add it definitely to the description box below, because people won't be able to see that chat box pop up.
Okay. And on the channel is there's four videos right now of a religious atheist tone. One is my deconversion story. One is two are about Islam. One about an incident. Oh, I've got a leaf blower guy walking by here. Don't turn your leaf blower on. Keep going. Walk. Okay. Oh, stop. And
boy, that blows.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he's moved on. No, he's coming back. No, turn around. Anyway, one is about we need to name radical Islam instead of being so touchy-feely about naming it. The other one is about an incident that happened with a Muslim refugee that came to Canada. And the third one is I did an interview with an imam in his mosque about a year and a half ago. And It was amazing. Yeah. Went in and super, super nice guy. He's Ahmadiyya, which is like the small 10% of the Muslim faith. And their motto is love for all, hatred for none. And interesting fact, there's never been an Ahmadiyya terrorist or suicide bomber. So this is like the peaceful part of Islam. And these people are the ones that are under attack a lot of the time by Sunni and Shia Muslims.
Yes.
So he was just lovely. And when I went to see him, actually it would be 2 years because it was at Ramadan. Him and his associate who stayed with us the whole time, both men, brought in lunch for me. And of course they're fasting. And they brought in this lovely Persian lunch for me, beautiful food. And so I felt so bad eating. I said, well, I'll have a few bites and I'll take the rest home. Like I couldn't eat in front of these guys, but I just thought so gracious to bring this meal in. But the fascinating thing, like I asked him about the age of Aisha when she married Muhammad. And he showed me the tour of the mosque, and it's a segregated mosque, as most are in Canada. Yeah. And he showed me where the ladies sat and where the men sat. And then it was time for Friday prayers, afternoon prayers. And so he said, well, you can come with us. And I thought he would say to me, like, there's benches outside the men's area where they pray. And I thought he would ask me to just sit out there and wait, which I would have done. You know, I'm in his house. I'm going to be respectful. Sure. And he said, no, you can come in and watch. And I was like, what? So I got to watch these guys praying. And later, I asked him, well, why did you let me in when other women aren't allowed in? And he said, well, you're a guest. Well, my doctor happens to be Iranian, out of a Muslim country. And I asked her, I said, why would he have done that? Oh, he was just showing off because you're a white woman.
Really?
And I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. So, but it was a really fascinating interview. I would love to interview a Sunni and a Shia imam as well, just to get their different perspectives. And
yeah, for sure.
I want to be doing more interviews with people of faith. You know, I mean, I've studied Scientology. I know Jehovah Witness faith and Mormonism like better than most Mormons and Jehovah Witnesses. In fact, the imam said to me, "You know more about Islam than any Muslim that goes to this mosque, except for me." And I was like,
except for me.
Yeah. But,
well, I guess that's kind of an obvious one because he is an imam. So.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But if I'm going to say I don't believe in something, or if I'm going to criticize it, I'm not just going to pick random things to criticize. I want to really understand.
Sure.
And so I've read the Quran, I've read most of the surahs, some of the hadiths, and I'm always engaging with people that are still Muslim to understand more. And I'm always trying to educate myself on all different religions. I'm always fascinated by why do people believe what they believe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when one of the people that I met when I was down in Texas is Anthony Magnabosco, and
I love him.
Yes. And he's such a great guy. As soon as he met me, he's like, dude, I've been wanting to meet you for a while. I've heard great things about your channel, blah, blah, blah. And he took me out for lunch, which was great. We had a pile of tacos and fajitas. It was awesome. Drank a couple beers together. Yeah, he's such one of the nicest people that I met down there. I could say that about everyone that I met down there.
Right.
But it was such a delight to sit and have lunch with him. And
he and I have
Hector
communicated.
Gonzalez, who's an author.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's quite all right. I'm just saying that Hector Gonzalez, who he also came with us for lunch, and he's an author. I actually have one of his audio books. It's about faith and stuff like that. So
cool. Yeah, Anthony's really cool. He and I have communicated quite a bit. Not recently, but last year we were going back and forth quite a bit. I can't remember if it was on Facebook or Twitter, or email. But anyway, I've had a number of conversations with him, and he is just one of like you say, one of the nicest guys.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. He's a lot taller than I thought he would be. He's almost my height, and I'm 6'4", for crying out loud. So,
okay.
Actually, a lot of people there are tall. Yeah, I know, not on camera.
On TV.
It's really bizarre because a lot of people there are taller than I thought they'd be. I mean, I knew Aaron was going to be tall, and Aaron and I are almost even. But I met Prophet of Zod, and he's just like he's one of the few people I actually had to look up at when I went down there. Yeah. And he doesn't look that tall in his videos with the screened out face and stuff like that. But
no.
So hang on a second. Sassy's I'm only 5'4". She said she'd also love to have a chat with you for your channel as well. Or you guys could go on each other's channels, which would be kind of cool.
Absolutely. Perfect. We'll do it.
No, David, I'm not a hobbit. Although you might think that if you looked at my toes, they're kind of hairy. But anyway, sorry, I'm sort of I interact a little bit with the people in the chat as much as often as I can too.
Of course.
So, is there anything else you wanted to add to this, or do you want to maybe make this or bring it to an end and maybe hop into a bit of an after party while you still have some battery life, or because I don't have to go an hour. We've gone well past a half an hour. And I do have a few that are shorter. And if you want to jump into an after party, I'll send you a new link, and then we'll all get together.
Okay, yeah, let's try that until the battery dies. Yeah, let's do that for sure.
Yeah, because I want you to sort of be able to talk to some of the people as well.
Sure, that would be great.
Okay, all right. We'll hang up on this one, and I'll send you a fresh link, and I'll just do my little closing statement here. Well, anyways, Wendy, thank you very, very much for chatting with me today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and we should go for coffee sometime because you're literally. I'm always out in Mission visiting my sister, so maybe.
Okay, well, I'm actually I'm a dog sitter as well as all the other things I do, and I will actually be in your neck of the woods in the next 10 days or so.
Oh, okay.
So for sure.
I will. I'll message you my cell number, and we can meet up or something. Okay, and thanks everyone for tuning in today. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. I know it's shorter than usual, but anyways, we're going to jump into an after party. If you are interested, you know where to find the link in my Usual Suspects group. And if you're not in my Usual Suspects group, then you can hit me with a message that way. Uh-oh. I think I'm frozen. Anyways. Guys, am I back? Oh, this is silly. Anyway. As I always say at the end of these things, remember, kids, it's called faith because it's not knowledge.